All right, class. Well, good evening, and my apologies if this is coming to you on Tuesday night. Once again, work has gotten in the way of my lectures, and good reason, I guess, to be out and about. I was entertaining clients at the Colts game last night, so I did not get my lectures done on Monday night. Trust me, after being at that game for 3 hours, I'd rather spent time talking to all of you guys via the internet. So, rough outing for the Colts, but hey, they'll rebound. Number of different things I want to touch on real fast before we go through chapters 10, 11, and 12. First off, a lot of you guys, I shouldn't say a lot of you guys, there's a number of you guys that email me about the book. I sent out a mass email. Hopefully all of you guys got it. Guys, I have a real hard time being sympathetic. We're in the 5th week of this class. It's an 8-week class, and some of you are telling me you don't have the book. Now, I'm not quite sure how you got through the first 5 weeks. I guess I should be kind of impressed. But it's hard now to come at me and say, hey, I don't have the book. I can't complete the assignment. You guys get your class schedules in advance. You know the books. I have been told that the bookstore had it. Whether they still do, I'm not sure, but I know at one time they did. So if this is a concern, you're still having trouble getting the book, please email me one last time. I will take it to Dr. Cecil and let her know that there's been some trouble. But if you're going to email me, you got to let me know when you first tried to get it. Did you go to the bookstore? Are you looking on Amazon? I know a lot of you have asked me for the ISBN number. I got that out to you guys. So again, give me an update here because this is something I do want to get in front of for the next time we have this class. So this is kind of the first class I've had that really getting a hold of the book has been this much of an issue. So you guys know your second exam is coming up on Thursday. We'll have that all online and ready to go. Your case studies were due on, I believe, the 20th. I'll have all that graded this week. I have all the discussions graded this week. We'll be totally up to par going into our final couple weeks. So again, any other questions out there, you guys know, just go ahead and email me. So here we go, chapter 10. We're kind of into our service side of things. We kind of talked about sales last week. Now we're going to talk about how we service these groups. So the first thing we're going to kind of talk about is the function of service. And a lot of times we call that part of the business CS, client services. In my world at the Crown Plaza, we call them Crown Meetings Directors or CMDs. So you will hear me throw those initials in just because what I'm used to. So what is so important about service? Well, that's what keeps our business and establishes our relationship. I have told many, many people, no matter how great of a year I've had year over year, the renewals of my clients who have come in, had a meeting with us, and then re-sign again for a following year or following month, what have you, that almost has zero to do with me. I mean, I'm a very good sales manager. I have a great personality. I bond well with my clients. But when they come here, if they don't have the perfect meeting or the perfect event, they are not going to come back. And the CS department is 99% responsible for any of the renewals that I've gotten or any sales reps has gotten. If that experience is not top notch, it doesn't really matter how good of a sales manager you are. You're not going to get them back. That service is what's going to set you apart. So again, very, very important client services. Again, CMDs in my world. What sets a hotel apart when it comes to that client services side? The book hits on a few different things. All of them are vitally important. Well-trained staff. Obviously, everybody has to know what their role is, how they do it, how they fit in the puzzle, and they've got to do it to the best of their abilities. Again, especially in Indianapolis, where service is expected, you've really got to raise your game to stand out amongst the other hotels. Dedicated point person. Again, for the Crown Plaza, this is a brand standard. We have a Crown Meetings Director. That's your one point of contact. So you as a meeting planner will sign a contract with me. I will then hand you over to a CMD or in other hotels, a client services manager. And that's usually your one point of contact. Your AV needs will go through them. They'll get it all arranged. Your room setup, your VIPs, your rooming list, any changes you're going to make, picking of your menus and the food and beverage items you have, all of that through one point of contact. You're also going to have you're going to have liaisons with third parties, and that could be everything from that you have to deal with a meeting planner from Helms Briscoe who's setting things up, and then that's being handed off to the actual on-site person. It could be that you're going through rooming list through a third party. It could be the convention center and their roomings division. It could just be there's a number of different computer software systems now that different planners use. So you're going to have other entities. And again, this one point of contact has to work well with all of those groups. Keeping the attendees informed. Again, if we have rooming lists, if we have email addresses, sending them a little heads up to say, hey, by the way, the Wednesday you guys come in is Workout Wednesday on Georgia Street. Please be prepared that if you come in between the hours of noon and 2, you might run into additional traffic. hey, by the way, there's going to be the Taylor Swift concert going on the Thursday night. If you guys are planning on going out for dinner, make sure you plan those things early. Just those little tidbits that, again, set you aside as a hotel that you're looking out for the attendees' best interest. You can do it directly to the attendees, or you might go through your point of contact with the group. It just depends on what they're most comfortable with. You might throw entertainment options out there too. And hey, by the way, you're going to be here on a Saturday. The Pacers take on the Jazz. The Colts take on, whoever. So again, you're always trying to offer different things to just heighten that experience. They're obviously going to, again, when it comes to setting the hotel aside, service and the quality of your food and beverage. I cannot begin to tell you how many times I have had clients just rave about our chef, about how the presentation was. It could be the mix of the food, with this side, with this main entree and that dessert, and what a world of difference that made for their event. So again, good service, good food. The last thing when it comes to our client services people, or our CMDs, is they're problem solvers. And they're miracle workers. One of the things that we always talk about is that I, as a salesperson, sell the dream, and our CMDs service the nightmare. So again, when anything goes wrong on their end, on our end, what have you, that client services manager, they're the one. They're the one that have to have it fixed and do it quickly and do it professionally and make it look like it was effortless. So again, that part of the industry I have the utmost respect for. They truly bring to life the things I promise. I have to have a good relationship with them, knowing that I can't overpromise things, that I make sure that the things that we can do are communicated accordingly. And again, they have, and they always do, make us look so good from the sales side because they are so dedicated to what they do, and they take on these events and these meetings as if they were their own. So now, the book will talk about a little things about who should do the servicing. This is going to depend upon different hotels. It could be the brand, it could be the size of the hotel, it could be the location of the hotel. The three they talk about: sales manager, basically what we kind of call booking it and cooking it. And a lot of times you'll have express sales managers at hotels who do this. They will make the sale, then they will also service the client as well. So put the BEOs together, put the resume together, be the on-site contact, make all the arrangements, talk with the planner, and again, if anything pops up surprising, they're the one that fix it. Again, you have CS, which we've already talked about, and then sometimes you have a hybrid in between, in which case the sales manager may do all of the legwork right up until arrival, in which case I greet them, I say hi, and then the on-site person is going to be the client services manager. Every hotel has their own way of doing things, and again, you may see cut and dry, black and white, these three things. It could be a hybrid thereof. Again, it's going to vary from chain to chain and property to property. So, again, looking at, in the book, in this chapter, really lays it out very well. The commission services manager, what the hierarchy is as far as how it goes from a CS position all the way down to banquet captains, what their duties are, and then again, the transition from sales to CS. And again, this also varies amongst properties. But a lot of times, if I had to pick the perfect way of doing it, after I've signed the contract, typically in our office, it's immediately assigned to a client services manager. So it could be that booking is happening in a month. It could be that it's happening in a year or two. But as soon as it's assigned, I think the perfect way of doing it is to get on a conference call and then let me, as a sales manager who have walked them through this process, introduce who the next person is, if you will, that's going to take over that booking. So I think a lot of hotels do that, where again they could be a small pre-con. They do it way in advance. It could just be a phone call, but I think it's good to do the handoff where I've built the trust, I've built the relationship. I'm going to talk on behalf of who their CS person is, and again make sure that confidence is still there. That hey, I'm in the picture, but this person is the expert, this person is the pro, and I'm going to put you in good hands. So that's chapter 10. We're going to go on to chapter 11 here. Give me just a second. All right, chapter 11, we're going to talk about guest rooms. And again, typically from a group standpoint, this is handled by either the client services manager, or if the hotel is large enough, you could have a group reservations manager. So first off, let's talk about the system. Everybody has a system in their hotels that they actually do all of their bookings through. Now, in my world, you have Delphi, and we talked a little bit about Delphi as kind of our database system that keeps all of our contacts, it keeps the bookings, it has our own basically a book of business, if you will. It lists all of our meeting space and when different things are in there. But when we book reservations, we usually book through Delphi talks to a secondary system, and that's called Opera. And everything's in Opera, and Opera will have our group bookings as well as any individual reservations that are made. So Opera is the Bible when it comes to availability within the hotel because everything has to go in there. So whether it is a transient booking through a third party who has a locally negotiated rate with us, whether it's mom and dad have jumped online and are just going to book a getaway weekend and they do it, through our website, whether it's me booking a group of 50 people for 4 straight nights and our reservations manager puts that in, all of it's right there. So that is what we're going to work through when it comes to seeing our reservations and seeing the occupancy of the hotel. So for group reservations, usually there's 2 to 3 different ways you can do this. There's going to be individual call-in, meaning that I'm going to give my planner the 1-800 or the local reservations number. I might give them a web link. They will pass it along to their attendees and they'll book their own reservations. The block is set, the rooms are held, they have to call in. When they call in, they ask for the group name, and all the reservations are booked within that block. When those rooms are all gone, you obviously can't book any more rooms in the block. So the other way of doing it is by rooming list. In this case, we're going to hold those rooms to a certain date. The planner is going to take all the reservations basically of who's going to attend, and they're going to send that to us. And they're going to lay it out, usually it's in an Excel spreadsheet, but they're going to say the name of the person, what room type, is it an upgrade, is it a standard, and they're going to give us all the information, and then our reservations manager is going to enter that all into the system. Now, it could also come from a third party. And again, the Convention Center has their own rooming services they offer, and what basically happens is that system can talk to Opera and they download into our system. So the reservations are made here, and then when the time comes, they flip a switch, if you will, and those reservations download into our system, and then we need to go in and make sure everything transferred in correctly. So again, very, very important things, and this is where a lot of mistakes can happen because a lot of different hands can kind of play into this, and mistakes can be made. So it's key to have a good CS person who watches your different blocks to make sure they're picking up accordingly, to make sure they're being booked the way that your room types were saved, and again, just making sure all the systems are talking to one another. So we talk about guest rooms, you have to talk about rates, and this is probably the hardest thing in the sales world of how we determine those. We've kind of glossed over this a little bit in previous chapters. How do you set rate? Well, I wish I could tell you there is one easy set rate. This is how you do it. It's a formula. It doesn't work out that way. Hotels are typically going to have a various rate structure. You're going to talk about rack rate, and that's just if I called in off the street, I want to book a room, I'm not special, I'd have no ties to anybody, what's my room rate? That's your rack rate. You're going to have locally negotiated rates, and these are usually based on volume. So if you're Eli Lilly, if you're Rolls Royce, and you're booking 2,000 rooms a year at my hotel, I have a set rate for you based on volume, and that's usually going to be a discounted rate. So if the rack rate's $189, the L&R rate, locally negotiated rate, is probably going to be like $129, $139, and it might include parking, it might include breakfast, depends on what we need to do to win that business. Then you're going to have groups, and groups are going to vary across the board, across hotels, and across time periods. So much goes into your group rate, what time of year it is. Hey, fall in Indianapolis, it is busy. You're going to get a decent group rate, but it's not going to be bottom shelf. You want to come in January and February where it's -3 and we got 8 inches of snow on the ground, you're getting under $99 probably. We want you, we need you, we're willing to negotiate. What time of the week it is. Weekends for a lot of hotels is a dead time, and so we're willing to, again, negotiate more. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is prime business traveler times, and so hotels have a tendency to be able to fill up without the group business. Those rates tend to be a little higher then because, again, the hotel has less occupancy. Remember, group rates are based on availability and demand. If the hotel is wide open, we're offering lower rates. If the hotel begins to fill up, then those rates are going to go higher because demand's higher. So again, that goes into, how occupied is the hotel? How compressed is the city? And when we talk about compression, what that means is, there's a citywide in Indianapolis, but they're not using every single downtown hotel. So let's say the Westin, the Crown, and the Omni are all part of this block, and we're sold out. So So the city's going to have a big influx of people. Well, what that means is 3 hotels just came offline. So if I'm the Marriott, the JW, and the Embassy, I know that people looking for rooms over that particular set of dates are limited on their choice. The city is compressed, it's tight, there's very few options. I'm going to raise my rates then. So, the last thing you're going to talk about too, client budget, obviously, you're going to have to deal with that. There are some times we have to walk away from clients, where they are set on a specific date. They can only pay X amount of dollars, and we know we can get more than that, and we have to say, you know what, this is not a good fit for us. Best of luck. We hope you can find a hotel, that can fit your rate structure. Other times it's a perfect fit, or even we can come in under budget because, again, they're willing to be flexible to find a need date for our hotel. So, and the last thing we're going to consider too, especially on the group side, is what other monies are they spending? I mean, if a group's going to come in and say, yeah, we want 100 hotel rooms in the fall and I want them for $129, which I know is way under your rack rate. However, I'm going to spend $65,000 in food and beverage. I'm willing to pay room rental, and I'm going to spend a ton on AV. Well, that's all revenue that this group is bringing in. And since I'm getting revenue on the food and beverage side and the room rental and the AV, I'm willing then to lower that rate for the overnight rooms. Again, you want to look at the complete package. So rates, without a doubt, guys, are going to be the hardest thing you're going to have to figure out. It's trial and error. You've got revenue managers who are going to help you with it, so you can look at history. Hey, this week, 2 years ago, we didn't draw anything, but last year, we were sitting at, our rate was 209. So they're going to base things on history. You're going to have a lot of help in that regard, but it's probably the hardest part of the whole process. Also, when we talk about guest rooms and rates, you're going to talk about some of the concessions that go along. Comps, is it 1 per 40? Is it 1 per 50? What that means is for every 50 rooms booked, we give you 1 complimentary night. So again, if you book 200 total overnight rooms, you got 4 complimentary nights out of that. Could be 1 per 30, could be 1 per 40. It just kind of really depends upon what you want to negotiate with the client. Now, when we talk about those room blocks, again, we need to make sure we set them up correctly. And I'll give you perfect examples. When the volleyball tournament comes in every March, we're not holding kings. We're holding doubles. They're doubling up players. They're doubling up families. They need beds. They need space. So in this regard, you have to make sure that your room block is held correctly. It doesn't do them any good to get kings. They can't use them. They've got to have doubles. We look at their history. Hey, this group came in the last 3 years. This year, for some odd reason, they're asking for 150 on peak, and they've never picked up more than 100. What's going on? I'm not sure I want to give them that many rooms because their history tells me they don't pick up that many. Now, if they can convince me that, we've added teams, we've got more publicity going on, and there's a reason behind it, then I might take the risk. But we look very, very hard at our history, and that kind of is our marching orders to what we're going to offer a group. And obviously the pattern. We're looking at the pattern. And this was again one of those hard things to learn early on. It doesn't do the hotel a ton of good if you're going to book Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and take up a wide variety of your inventory. Why is that? Because now we can't book a 5-day stay. It doesn't do me any good to book Monday, Tuesday, and all I have left now is Wednesday, Thursday. Again, you're looking at transient traffic. You're looking at leisure traffic. When is that coming in? And it's a big, big picture. And again, this is where the revenue manager really, really comes in handy and is an asset to the sales team. But those are the kind of things you're going to look at before those rates are going to get set and before you're going to be able to offer a certain size block. So the last thing I want to talk about real quick, no-shows and overbooking. A no-show, guys, is if rooms were booked, the reservations were there, they were never canceled, but they didn't show up. Okay, typically a hotel is going to charge the planner for those rooms because I couldn't resell the room, you never used it, and now it's gone. Again, as you guys know, our inventory, once we hit 12 midnight tonight, I can't sell today's rooms. So there's usually a charge for that. We talk about overbooking. This is the worst case scenario for a hotel. We didn't balance our blocks right. They filled up real quick. We thought there'd be some fall off, and there wasn't, and now all of a sudden we're sitting at -10. Well, that means 10 people are going to get walked from my hotel to another property. And when we say walked, what that basically means is the hotel will tell the individual, I know you had a reservation here. I apologize. The hotel oversold. We are going to pay for 1 night stay at a comparable hotel. In my world, the Omni is right across the street. So typically we work out with those guys. We'll walk them over to the Omni. We'll pay for, I think we pay for one long distance phone call. We pay for their overnight stay for that night. and transportation if it was needed to get to the Omni. And then we'll bring them back in as soon as we can if it's possible. So again, those are the kind of situations the front desk hates to be in. I hate to be in because clients get upset, obviously. So it's a tough thing to balance, if you will. So again, hopefully none of you have to deal with that. Last thing we're going to talk about just a little bit is the attrition. We touched on this before. We talked about the contract stages. Again, if a client, you look at that block and they book 100 rooms, they're allowed to fall off, to come up short. In our world, it's 20% typically. So they pick up 80 rooms. They're fine. If they pick up 75 or 70, they're in a penalty phase. And a lot of times what hotels will do is they're going to charge you whatever the revenue is they would make off the room. So for instance, in my world, we make 80% revenue off whatever the room rate is. So if you're an attrition and you're short 10 rooms, I'm going to charge you 80% of the rate times the 10 rooms. And that's going to be a penalty you're going to pay to me. So there's chapter 11, guys. One more quick drink here. We're going to pop into chapter 12. All right, chapter 12, preparing for the events. This is where the CS guys earn their money. They've got, the book talks about it, communication is unbelievably important. I can't stress it enough. Great hotels have great communication. They understand what goes on. They work well with each other. The right hand knows what the left hand is doing. And information that is essential to an event going off without a hitch is passed down all the way to your line employees. That kind of begins with your CS manager, your client services manager. They're the ones who have talked to the client. They've laid out the entire event. They know what's important. They know what things we cannot do. They know who the VIPs are. They know who's got food allergies. Hey, this speaker is going to be kind of loud. We got to make sure they're not next to anybody who's soft-spoken. All the different nuances of a meeting they know, and now they've got to trickle down that information to all the departments who it concerns. So again, it could be internal meetings. What our CS people usually do is they put together what's called a resume, and a resume is an outline of an event. That resume is going to be passed on to every department head who's affected by that group. Your food and beverage, your front desk, your reservations manager. Could be engineering if something special has to be done. Definitely AV is going to be in the loop. Excuse me, housekeeping could be in the loop because we're going to have late checkouts that we're guaranteed. So all of this is passed down to those directors, and then they're passed down to their teams. So again, detail is incredibly important here. You've got to get everything right. And I always share this story with the classes I go and talk to. One of our clients that we have, and they're a longtime client, and we've since won them back, was Steak and Shake. And Steak and Shake brought, or still brings actually, their franchisee meeting to the hotel. Well, the first time we had this meeting, they had left one hotel to come to us because the service was just not where it needed to be at. So again, right away, we're aware service has to be on top of it. The one thing they stress to us over and over and over, and this is going to sound really silly, is that at their opening reception, do not run out of Miller Lite. Seems like a very basic, simple thing. They told us up front. They mentioned it 19 times. This happened at the other hotel. They ran out of the type of beer they like, and it upset people, and they decided that was one of the reasons they wouldn't go back. Our CS person, one of the best in the industry, had this laid out. We had one-on-one talks with all the directors. Everybody from our janitorial staff to the GM knew that running out of Miller Lite could not happen. The night of their reception, we must have had just multiple cases down in our cooler area to make sure we would not run out. One bartender, apparently having a bad night, ran out of Miller Lite, did not restock his bar. The vice president, who made it clear to us we could not run out of Miller Lite, went to that bartender and asked for a Miller Lite. He didn't have it. She was fine with it, actually. She asked for another drink. For whatever reason, that bartender then decided to get somewhat lippy and say, you know what? You're really lucky you're getting a drink at all because we should have shut the bars down 15 minutes ago. Appalled. Again, we could not believe with everything we had planned, one person blew it all up. That person was fired the next morning. We spent the next year apologizing to Steak and Shake. I took them golfing. I took them breaks. The following year, we did not get that piece of business back, although we did not have their dates. They ended up going to a different location, but I have to think that played something into it. And again, that was over $100,000 piece of business. We continued to go after them for the next year, again, showing that, we had learned from our mistakes. It was not going to happen again. Since then, I believe we've had that meeting 3 times. It's gone off without a hitch. We've had their owner, Mr. Biglari, has been in on numerous times. He likes the hotel. And again, we continue now to get rave reviews. But guys, that communication, and you can see where it takes one step to blow the whole process up. It's so vital. And again, you have to work so hard once you've lost kind of the trust of the client. So again, in the end, a great story. They're one of our strongest clients now. Absolutely love Steak and Shake. They brought one of the race cars during the 500 this year and put it in one of our lobbies. So, but again, we had to really work hard to win them back, and that's not something anybody wants to go through. So you have your resumes. Then you're actually going to break it down into into even more detail, and that's called a BEO, or banquet event orders, if you will. Those are going to lay out each and every single event that's going on. So if they're having a meeting for 100 in this ballroom and it's set up this way, the BEO gives you every single thing you need to know. This many chairs, this type of linen, here's our spacing, here's the AV, it's all the marching orders, and that goes into the banquet staff, and they'll set the room up off of those. Sometimes the book will talk about a staging guide if it gets into real details where, it's going to give you even more so than just the BEO. It might break it down, especially if it's specific or it's very, very detailed, or you've got, more AV than a normal setup. You might go into something like that. That's kind of it on the preparing for an event. Like I said, communication, being detail oriented. It goes without saying, the CS people, in my mind, probably are some of the hardest working people in the industry. And their mind works in a totally different way because the details they have to remember and then to communicate them to everybody is unbelievable. And like I said before, I can never give enough compliments to our own CS staff and what they do for me, what they've done for the hotel. It's absolutely an amazing group. So there we go. 10, 11, and 12 done. We've got discussions this week that are due. I'll grade those case studies. We got the exam on Thursday. As always, guys, if there are questions, email me. If you need to text me, feel free. You guys can always call me as well. You guys have my cell phone as well as my office number. So best of luck this week. We're more than halfway there, guys, so keep plugging away. And good luck on that second exam.